Chapter 19, Triplets. In simple time, note values tend to divide in half to create faster moving rhythms. For example, whole notes divide into two half notes, and half notes divide into two quarter notes, and quarter notes divide into two eighth notes divide into two 16th notes, etc. Now, if we wish to divide values into three parts instead of two, we must employ the concept of triplets. Now, as you know, rhythm in compound time already divides the beat units into three parts, as we've already talked about. But triplets will allow this type of division even in simple time and across a wide range of values. This example shows a series of quarter notes followed by their normal division into eighth notes. So in other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But the bottom example shows the same quarter notes divided into eighth note triplets. And that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. As you can see, it's very much like compound time, but we're able to import that concept of dividing the beat into three parts, even into simple time, as long as we notate it correctly. Now, to notate the triplet, we extend the beam across the grouping of 3/8 notes, and then we put the little label 3 on the side of the beam of the note grouping. Now, triplets are always performed evenly across whatever space they occupy. To determine how much time they occupy, you take one member of the triplet group and consider a note value one level higher. For example, the three notes of the eighth note triplet group take up the same amount of time as a quarter note. As you can see, the quarter note is sort of double the value of the individual eighth note. Likewise, a quarter note triplet takes up the same amount of time as a half note. And the 16th note triplet takes up the same amount of time as an eighth note. You can see that illustrated right here. Now, to indicate triplets that already have a beam in their note values, like eighth note triplets or 16th note triplets, you just simply place a little 3 on the beam side of the grouping. But for triplets without beams, like quarter note triplets or half note triplets, you need to add a bracket on the stem side of the note. And this bracket will be broken in the middle and labeled by the number 3, as shown in this example. You should go ahead and try Check Your Understanding 19.1, where you try to fit a triplet into designated spaces within measures. Now, triplet groupings can be altered with the addition of rests, ties, extended note values, and subdivided notes. It's possible to include one or more rests in a triplet grouping. Now, generally, individual rest values will be the same as the individual note values in the group. Here are a few examples where you can see that the eighth note in the first example in various places has been replaced by an eighth note rest. And in this second example, a few quarter notes have been replaced by quarter note rests. Let's see what this sounds like. This is example 19.3, the first example here. I'll count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And let's go ahead and try to clap the second line in this example. This is a little bit more difficult with quarter note triplets because we'll talk about how to perform those a little bit later. 1, 2, 3, 4, triplet, 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 triplet. Now, triplets with altered note values, sometimes composers will wish to alter the values of the notes within the triplet groups, and this can be achieved by using a tie to connect two notes. It can also be achieved by simply increasing the note value of one of the notes. Both situations are shown here. Notice that the resulting rhythms that are shown have the exact same sound. In the first example, a few of the eighth notes have been tied together, and in the second example below that, those tied notes have been transformed into larger note values. Let's go ahead and listen to what this sounds like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. In the bottom example, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I hope you heard that they're exactly the same. Now, the same types of triplet alterations can be found with other types of triplet groupings, such as the quarter note triplet shown here. As you can see, a few of those quarter notes have been tied together in the upper example, and in the lower example, they've been transformed into half notes, still fitting well within those triplet groups. Now, some rhythms will contain triplet groupings that have further subdivisions of the rhythm within the group. With triplets, these subdivisions are normally binary. That is, the subdivision divides the note into two equal parts. So just to clarify, a triplet takes a particular space or a particular note value and divides it into three parts. But if you want to further divide each of those individual elements of the triplet, they're probably going to divide into two equal parts. So let's go ahead and see what this, we'll just clap the first example shown here, the one on the top, and see what that sounds like. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, eighth note triplets are prevalent through music literature across various styles, and here are a few examples. You should go ahead and try to clap the rhythm of the right-hand part. For example, this piece is Beethoven's famous Moonlight Sonata, which has a long series of triplets that Beethoven notates in the right hand. These are eighth note triplets, and each eighth note triplet, as we've just learned, will fit in the same space as a quarter note. This next piece is by Rachmaninoff, and as you can see, there's a wide variety of different kinds of rhythms, dotted eighth notes, 16th notes, and an occasional triplet. Also notice that Rachmaninoff changes the time signature. That's called mixed meter. Music with quarter note triplets presents a real challenge to the performer. Here's an example by Debussy, Passepied, from his suite Bergamesque. You can see in the right-hand part there are quarter note triplets, while in the left-hand part there are eighth notes. So if you think about that, you're trying to play a grouping of 3 notes with the right hand, while you're playing a grouping of 4 notes in the left hand. That takes a lot of particular study to try to pull that off. So the whole idea of triplets and learning how to play triplets is a study that you'll be undertaking throughout your career of learning about music and music theory. Now, triplets that take up the space of a beat unit are counted in the same way as you'd count them in compound time, as we've already been doing, using 1 and 2 and. You can see how that divides the beat into 3 parts. The counts are placed in the example, and you should clap the rhythm while counting out loud. This is Check Your Understanding 19.2. Let's go ahead and try to clap this together. Notice that it's 4 measures long. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 Now often musicians are required to play eighth note triplets at the same time as eighth notes, in a rhythm sometimes referred to as 2 against 3. This is a type of polyrhythm, where independent rhythmic streams are heard at the same time. And to clap this rhythm, you want to decide how the right hand and the left hand interact in a kind of linear way, and then try to perform the rhythm while listening to the 2 streams independently. So here we can see an example where the right hand is going to play the triplet. That would be 1 and the left hand is playing the eighth notes. And to perform this, you can think of how the hands actually interact. So we could say together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. Faster would be like this. Together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. Together, right, 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 left, 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 left. Together, right, left, right. Together, right, left, right. You can even try to come up with a little saying. Pick the bucket, pick the bucket. And you're actually performing 3 in one hand against 2 in the other hand. So that's kind of a fun exercise to try. Here, let's take a look at this. You get a chance to do this in the context of a musical example. The left hand begins with eighth notes, the right hand comes in with the triplets, and then finally you put them together. It'll sound something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And you can continue it like that. Now the quarter note triplet presents its own unique challenges in performance. Many musicians learn the sound of the quarter note triplet by lining it up with a faster moving but easier to perform eighth note triplet. So if you apply some judicious ties in the eighth note triplet, you can actually turn it into a quarter note triplet. Take a look at this example. Starts with eighth note triplets, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the next measure is the same thing, but every other note is tied together. So it sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and Think about that, because what you've done now is you've actually transformed the eighth note triplet into quarter note triplets. What I'm saying is measure 2 sounds exactly like measure 3. So in effect, those ties that you've placed on the eighth note triplets actually gives it the same sound as the quarter note triplets. And that's a good way to learn how to go about playing the quarter note triplets and what they sound like. So listen to this example again and try to do it with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And that's right. You just keep repeating that over and over again until it's comfortable for you.